Hello! Welcome to Creative Catchup,
a podcast where myself, Natasha Newton,
artist and illustrator, and me, Mel Chadwick,
illustrator and designer, will be chatting about running a creative business.
Each episode we'll be diving into a different topic that has come up in our own creative practice.
We'll be sharing our experiences, both the ups and downs, struggles and successes,
and hopefully give some advice that you'll also find useful.
So join us for episode 2 as we chat about the art of procrastination,
why so many of us do it,
and how we can build healthy habits to resist its power.
So today we're talking about procrastination. I think most of us struggle with it. I know I definitely struggle with it. So let's just talk a bit about that. What do you think kind of keeps us from doing something?
I think that it is the fear of what could go wrong when you do whatever it is you want to do. I think it's just, if you don't start a project, you never have to deal with the potential failure of it. And I think that's a huge thing that stops us all from actually getting on and doing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me that a big hurdle is working out everything, all the details in advance. I think have sometimes so many ideas of what something could look like. And I try and imagine all of those bits, and then it's just too much. And then that immediately kind of then stops me from starting.
Yeah, it sort of freezes you, doesn't it? Yeah, it's like you become paralysed. That's the word, yeah.
And also, I guess, other things that stop us, like, say, if financially things are a bit tight, then, again, trying to take on another project that maybe you know short term you won't see any financial gain from it, again, that can kind of stop you and not really push into it because you're worried that you can't support yourself with what you've got.
Yeah, I feel like this a lot of the time. There's something I want to do at the moment, in fact, that I'm not getting on with because I know it's not going to be a money maker initially. And I'm very concerned with, I need to do this. I need to prioritise the paying work rather than... Yeah, so yes, that's kind of been put on hold. And sometimes things can be put on hold for years.
Yeah.
Well, they can in my case.
Yeah, I know that you have, a YouTube channel, and I have one as well. Do you remember how you started that, or did it take you a while to get that off the ground?
Yeah, it took me absolutely ages. Probably, I think the best part of a couple of years. I was thinking about it for longer than that.
Yeah.
When I first came up with the idea, I mean, we're going back maybe 5 years or so. And I just thought, I can't do that. I know nothing about editing. I'm not confident in front of a camera. But I loved watching YouTube videos and I so wanted to do that myself. So I had to push through that feeling of, I can't do this. And like you said, it seemed overwhelming. There were so many... It's like, what do I film on? What do I edit in? What software do I use? All of the little problems you have to solve before you can actually do something.
Yeah.
And that kind of paralysed me for a long time. And eventually I just thought, I'm going to give it a go. And I just posted a really simple first video, really just to see if I could do it. It was like a little experiment, really. And I really enjoyed it. I love editing videos. And it's a very creative thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, that sometimes when you say starting a vlog or some video work anyway, you don't realise actually how much you learn as well as you're doing it and as you go along. I remember the first couple of times just totally overwhelmed by it, and what do all of these dials mean, what's going on with this? You can feel completely stuck. But I found that if I just kept trying a bit more each time I would do it, I would suddenly unlock a new a new thing. What kind of things really helped you in terms of pushing through?
Well, I mentioned it on Instagram that I was thinking of starting a channel, and people were so overwhelmingly positive and supportive about it. and they were like, I'd definitely watch if you had a channel. So I thought, okay, there's kind of like a little audience there. So, you know, they want me to do it. They'd be interested in seeing more of the behind the scenes of what it's like to be an artist. And also the technical side of things. I actually watched a lot of tutorials on YouTube on how to edit videos, funnily enough. So that was really helpful. So you just kind of, you know, search and Google, and just gradually I gained a little bit more knowledge that way.
Yeah, you kind of just have to go for it, don't you? Push yourself and go for it and make a start, and then suddenly you pick up a bit of momentum.
Exactly. I think it's that initial jump, you know, that starting that is the difficult part. Once you're, like you say, once you've started, it rolls, you know, you get into it and things become a little bit easier, and you gradually solve any problems as you go along. But it's that thing of actually starting.
Yeah.
It's that, I think Dominic, he would really like to start his own channel, and he's at the stage that perhaps we were a couple of years or so ago, where it's getting that first video edited and done and actually, you know, taking that leap. And I keep trying to encourage him, because I think he would have a brilliant channel.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked more about our vlogs and our YouTube channels more than our artwork or our illustration work. I mean, are there projects that are in a similar way? You know, when you maybe think of having to create a new piece of work, do you find that a bit of procrastination may come into that process?
It's much less now than it was.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm so many years into my art career. So I feel much more comfortable with the process in a lot of ways. But if it's a large project, if there's something new, I always seem to be a little bit resistant at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it's that fear factor again, you know. So, and it's like trying to kind of figure out, how am I going to do this? And also, how are you, if it's something that's quite time consuming, how are you going to fit it in with all of your other work?
Yeah.
So, and it's like I have a list of ideas. I have them all written down, all these different things I want to do. And I sometimes get around to the odd one or two, but, you know, I think procrastination, maybe it's something you're always going to have to deal with if you're a creative. I wonder whether it ever goes away.
I do wonder that as well. I mean, I've listened to lots of people talk about their careers, and then always there seems to be a point where they would talk about, oh, I really had to push through this bit, or, you know, it took a leap for me to, you know, start that or pivot into something else. And it does seem to be that when you're having to put new work or just put work out into the world, you're going to meet some resistance. I definitely think that is the case. With me, I've found that when I set kind of like a brief for myself or constraints on, you know, a new project, that's really helped. So I'm thinking at the moment I'm doing my postcard project, which is a postcard every day for 2020. And to begin with, I thought, why am I setting myself this, what seems to be impossible task of doing a postcard every day? But what I've done is I've broken it into more manageable chunks. So I only set myself 15 minutes to do the postcard in. I then also have the constraint of just using black brush pen with a wash. So I'm eliminating all of the decisions I would have to make about colours and that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is a great idea, actually. I love your way of thinking, because it does seem a daunting project. You know, you've got to make a piece of work every day of the year. Yeah. And I mean, you look at it like that and you just think, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But then because you've taken away, you know, some of the decision making, it's made it very doable for you. Yeah. And you've kept up with it, haven't you?
I don't know. It's been brilliant. I don't know what's happened. Normally I'm really bad at, like, you know, art challenges, you know, the ones that you see on Instagram with 30-day art challenges. Sometimes I've tried those and then I've just halfway through, I've just been, I can't be bothered now.
Oh, totally. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. I was so pleased that I managed to finish Folktale Week back in the autumn. But because it was just a week, it was, you know, fairly easy. But to do that for a month, I would have found it, because obviously I was creating work that was taking me several hours each day.
Yeah.
And I think that's unsustainable.
Yeah.
Whereas, what you're doing with your project, 15 minutes a day, you can find 15 minutes to create a piece. And it's getting you out there as well. It's getting you out and about and visiting different places.
Yeah, so I think it is important, isn't it, to have kind of a structure and to kind of treat yourself seriously, I guess, when you want to start a project. Because I know, like in my, commercial illustration work, I enjoy having a brief. I like the challenge of meeting it. So what is the difference when I set myself a project?
That structure is very important, and that's what you're doing for yourself, isn't it, now? So, yeah, deadlines are a great way of focusing the mind and stopping procrastination, because if you know something has to be done by, Thursday next week, you're going to do it by Thursday next week, and you just have to get on with it.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps. I find it really helpful when clients give me a definite date, because I will hesitate sometimes, I will kind of think, oh, well, I don't really have to think about that yet, I can leave that. Oh, it's a bit difficult. I'll leave it until next week. I have this way of putting things off. So this is great. It's with the podcast, you've kind of said, let's have definite days for doing it. And if we stick to those as much as we can, this is a way to get a project done.
Yeah, exactly. If someone says to you, oh, yeah, just do it when you have time, it will never come onto your plate. It will just never get done, because it will always be, oh, well, that's only when I have time. And so often you think, I don't have time. And things have to be scheduled in. I love having my calendar just to write in what I want to do and what I want to kind of achieve. Because if I don't write it on there, it just never sees the light of day.
Totally.
So once you've started like a project, and you've kind of got over that first hurdle, and actually it's been quite good and you've managed to get some stuff done. But do you find that there's like a halfway point where things start to slow down again and you're kind of like almost hitting another brick wall? I don't know if you've experienced that. I
do experience that. I experience it a lot with larger projects. Recently I worked on that tree painting, really large tree painting on canvas, and I don't often work that large. And you'll find that there's a point with almost every painting, but certainly if you're working on something huge, where you get to the stage where you start out loving it, and then you get to the stage where you really don't like it. And it's having to push through the stage where you don't like it to get to the point where you do like it again. Because the image you have in your mind is never what you're seeing on the canvas or the paper. It's always slightly different. So then you have to kind of rewire your brain and just think, okay, this isn't exactly the image I had in my mind, but maybe, it doesn't mean it's any worse for that. I come to this stage and then it's very, very tempting to go, oh, this isn't turning out the way I want, and I'm just going to give up on this. There's definitely that stage in every large project, I would say. I experience this quite a lot, yeah. Yeah,
and you get those kind of negative voices or those doubts that start creeping in, don't you? And saying, oh, what are you doing? Why do you think you can do this? You're not qualified to do this.
Yeah, it's that imposter syndrome thing, isn't it? Yeah, I really have a great idea for a book at the moment. But I'm like, but how do you construct a book? I'm not an author. Can I really do this?
And it's those doubts that come in again that kind of stop you. They want to stop you. They want to halt you. They want to say, you're not good enough. You can't do this. Yeah. You need to leave it to someone else. But the thing is, you are that person who's being given that responsibility to see it through. And I just sometimes think you have to almost let those voices kind of come, but then just
kind of ignore them and just let them go past. Yeah. It reminds me of that saying, done is better than perfect. Because it's like, I find this with pretty much anything creative that I do. You could fiddle with it forever.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to be perfect to you. So you're trying to make it perfect, but it's unattainable. And so at some point you just have to say, okay, this is enough. This is this is done, it's better to get it out there into the world than constantly try to strive for something that really is unattainable.
I think that is something I've struggled with, especially when I was younger. Everything had to be a certain way or had to look good. But actually doing this postcard, some days I'm like, oh no, I don't really like that. But the thing is, because I've set myself the challenge and I have to post it every day, I'm kind of like getting over those fears of it's not perfect, it's not right, it's not as I would want it, you know?
Yeah.
And because also I only give myself 15 minutes, I can't fiddle with it anymore.
So after the 15 minutes are up,
yeah,
you don't ever fiddle with them. No, you just leave them. You literally leave them. That is such discipline. I think I'd be so tempted to sneak in there afterwards and like add a little bit here and there. And
maybe the first one or two, I was like, oh, should I be putting something more in? But then I'm thinking, no, once I've taken the picture, and that's posted on like my Instagram and I've put it in my shop, I can't like do anything.
No, you can't alter
I can't
it
alter
then,
or add anything else because
no.
the person who is going to buy it, they will expect it to look like the picture that I posted. So I can't really add anything else. So
exactly, yeah. So that stops you.
Yes, it stops me.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another thing, isn't it, with keeping going with a project as well, is the accountability of sharing your work and kind of being more visible.
Yeah, being accountable to other people.
Yeah.
In that respect, it helps if you're working on a project, if you have a friend who can kind of keep you in check and say, hey, are you getting on with that? How far have you got with that?
Yes.
You know, that kind of thing really helps.
I guess you need someone who's willing to give you like the talk, you know, like, so when you're like going, oh, I can't do this. Oh, this is really hard. You don't want someone to say, okay, just don't do it.
No, totally not.
Yeah, you want someone to give you that pep talk, you know, that talk that says, you could do it. You can do this. Come on, you can get over this. Look how far you've come already.
Yeah.
And see what you've accomplished. And you need someone who knows you, don't you? Who knows what you've done before and what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And they can see the potential that you can achieve just through persevering.
Yeah, it's very important to have someone behind you whoever they are, whether it's your partner or a friend or a family member, who can say that and just give you that confidence in yourself, because I think sometimes, we all lack confidence and we're all unsure whenever we start anything. You know, we don't really know how we're going to achieve it. And if you've got somebody there who says, look at what you've done already, you know, I believe in you, you can do this, then that does make the world of difference.
Yeah.
And that can be what you need to push you on. I mean, I know you have to have a certain amount of independence where you're thinking that anyway, where you're not relying on other people. Maybe independence isn't the right word, but I think you know what I mean. So that has to come from within you as well. You have to have that kind of strength where, you know, even when you're not certain about something, you can then push yourself to do it anyway. But yeah, it totally helps to have somebody else.
Yeah, who's like cheering from the sidelines.
Yeah, cheerleader, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, like, how can we build like habits into our kind of practice to kind of keep us on track, or just to, I don't know, just keep us going and, you know, chipping away?
Well, it's that thing that you told me about where it had a certain name. What was the name of it?
Oh, yes. The Pomodoro technique. It's actually based on that little tomato timer. I don't know if you've seen them. I think they're like kitchen timers. They look like tomatoes.
Oh, those, yeah.
And you just set up 25 minutes each day, and it's just a focused time on the project that you want to do. You switch off all your devices and don't take any calls, don't look at emails, just 25 minutes focus on the project in hand. And then once the timer goes, then you can stop and you can have a little break And then if you feel you want to go again, you can set yourself another 25 minutes. It soon builds up that kind of habit, each day, if you do it each day.
Yeah, it comes back to that thing of having like a routine or a structure to your working day, where you're sort of holding yourself accountable and you're, making sure that you make that time, and you can build that into your day every day. And I think this is a great idea, and I think this is something I definitely need to do more. Yeah, I love the idea of just switching everything off and just being, because there are so many distractions as well nowadays, aren't there?
Exactly. And I find it frustrating at times. I get annoyed at myself because I will look at a screen for 25 minutes. The time goes so quickly. And so you have to always be intentional sometimes with your time, don't you? And
you do. It's like, for example, if you think, I'll just post this on Instagram. I'll just go on there for 10 minutes, post the photo, do a quick little bit of text to go with it. Maybe answer a couple of comments, and you so easily get sucked into that. And, an hour later, you're still on there, and then you're looking at everyone else's stuff. And then, you've gone down that rabbit hole, and you've just,
and you've started to compare yourself, haven't you, with what they've done. And
that's a killer. Yeah. Yeah, I often find that happens on social media. Yeah. Yes, because there's so many people doing so many great things, and then you just think, oh my goodness, I've been doing this for a lot longer than they have, and I'm nowhere near at that level. And
that's interesting you say that, because again, Instagram only really shows you what that person wants you to see. So you don't know how long they've really been doing it. They might say, oh, this is what I did in, I don't know, 10 minutes or but you don't really know what that journey was like, or you don't see the hours that they may have spent, years ago, kind of going through stuff and working stuff out.
Exactly. And I have to remind myself of that. Because you're only seeing a small part of the entire story, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Well, I think we've kind of covered a lot of things to do with procrastination.
That was good.
I mean, I've really enjoyed just chatting about it and thinking about ways in which I can kind of limit it. It is basically just chipping away a little each day. And soon you'll have a whole project, won't you?
Yeah, and you just have to take that initial leap as well, because that's always the most difficult bit. And once you're past that, you can achieve what you want to with a bit of encouragement.
Next time, Natasha, what shall we be talking about?
I think we're going to be talking about something that we touched on in this episode, and that is comparison. And I think that's a topic that so many people, it's something so many people deal with, and it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on that as well, because I think I have quite a bit to say about comparison, because it's something I deal with a lot.
Thanks for listening to another episode with myself and Natasha. We would love to hear your thoughts, or if you have any ideas on how to push through procrastination, please find us on Instagram or on our YouTube channel and leave a comment so that we can continue the discussion there. But thanks again, guys, for listening in, and we hope to speak to you again next episode.